Hey everybody, just waiting for more people to join so we can start today's exciting event that is ahead of us. We're going to have a special conversation with a special person. For all of you joining in now, thanks for coming in. Obviously, I'm super excited to speak to Maria. You guys seen the the post that we did, kind of announcement of today's conversation. I've never done this live with her. We did some really funny commercials with our racket sponsor Head that we are going to actually talk about a bit later on in the conversation. But we've never done a live, and I'm really excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. She's one of the most successful tennis player of all time, definitely one of the most successful brands in all sports, both men and women of all time. She's a very special person, someone that I've known for many years, and I'm glad to call her a friend. So thanks for joining in, and I would like to invite Maria now. I think she's here on the chat. I'm going to invite her to come to this live. Let me just look for her message. Still trying to get used to the Instagram lives. I do apologize if there are any mistakes being done from my side. You know, we had some interruptions in the past lives that we've done. Hopefully today it will be all fine. Give me a sec. Let me see. Go live with. I'm just gonna have a look right now. Right there. Okay, so she's here. We're waiting for her to join. There she is.
Hi.
Hi, Maria.
Happy Tuesday? Wednesday?
Is it Tuesday?
Thursday?
Yes, happy Tuesday. Yeah, you
Who
are on
knows?
the opposite side of the world, aren't you?
I'm on the opposite side of the world in beautiful sunny California.
That's wonderful. That's one. Thank you,
Oh,
Maria. Thank you for this conversation. I'm really
of course.
glad we have a chance to talk. And I was saying before I invited you in that this is the first time that we're going to do something like this. We have done some funny ads for our racket sponsor Head. We can talk about that a little bit. And
Yeah.
the
I think the
shot.
last one we did, I hit you in the balls. So I'd like to want to make sure that, and
Exactly.
you've won a few Grand Slams since then. So maybe we should like do a repeat. I think it's worked out quite well for you.
Exactly. Well, after that, I got the new balls, so then everything worked out in the end.
Okay.
Oh my God! Oh, that's a super good memory.
I got so many questions. I know we
Yeah.
both filled out. We did a little square in our Instagram story and asked people to send in questions.
Yes.
And I think like half of the people asked how we first got to know each other. And my first memory that comes to mind is really funny, so I wanted to share it.
Yes. Before you share it, Maria, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna switch off the comments here. I'm gonna turn it off so that we can focus on each other now. And then, of course, later on, just before we finish the conversation, we're gonna obviously have people who are on our live asking us questions.
Perfect.
Please go ahead.
Sounds good. Yeah, so I remember we played this little exhibition, and this is like, I was young. I mean, you were young, way before you had, any Grand Slam titles, or I don't know if you'd even won a tournament at that point, but we played this little exhibition at La Quinta in Indian Wells. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And I think we're playing a mixed doubles against each other, and you said that if you'd win, I would have to pay dinner. And I was like, okay, whatever, who is this kid? And you won, and you're like, we have dinner tonight. We're going to the Japanese place. And I was like, are you serious? You and me going to dinner tonight? And so we did. We ended up going to dinner, and it was so funny because you pulled out, I think it was like an old Kodak camera, and you asked the waiter to take a photo of us. And I was like, this
Yeah.
feels like I auctioned off myself to a dinner.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
and here
actually
we are.
it's actually what happened. Maria is saying the truth, right? Um, I um,
Yeah.
I
I
can't.
think
Do
you were
you recall?
fanboying.
Do you
You had a
exactly?
fanboy moment.
Do you recall who we played with that day?
No.
No.
No, I don't remember
Oh,
anything about that. I just
well,
remember going to that
okay.
dinner, and this like old school camera comes, and the waiter's like, "You want a picture of you two?" And you're like, "Yeah. It's great memory." It was a really good memory.
Oh, by the way, I lost that camera, so there goes my first
You
photo
don't
that
have
I
that.
get.
That would be a really note
And
to share.
but yes, well, you have to admit to everyone here that you lost on purpose that mixed doubles match.
Ah, right. Okay, I got it. I got it. What's up with that? What's up with that artwork behind you?
Yeah, it's a nice art, isn't it?
Is it? I don't know. I'm trying
Yeah,
to figure
I
it
know
out.
you're, I know you love art. So
Yeah.
is this your style or you like more contemporary?
I love contemporary art. I love art that in which you can't make sense of. So you make its story and you story tell through what you make of it rather than it showing you what it is. I like the
Interesting.
mystery of art. But
You
yeah,
like
I
to
need to.
kind of find the secret code in it and kind of inspires you to think
Yeah,
deeply
yeah.
about.
I think art. Well, I think art, in general, it should make you happy, or it should like provoke some sort of feeling or remind you of a time. You know, like for me,
Mhm.
what some like art for me were kind of incremental in my collection because it I guess signified like the time or a certain maybe a victory or a time I was going through. You know, to still be able to look at it and feel like, oh, okay, that memory comes back and recollection. I know a lot of people buy art like as an investment, but I've always seen it as a hobby and something that I.
Do you also do you pa- do you paint yourself?
Oh no, no, I'll leave that. You probably paint with your children, huh?
Yes, yes, I do a lot of that on a daily basis. But no, I'm just wondering because obviously, I mean, I know because I've been following you've been sharing on Instagram, especially, you know, your connection and your admiration to the contemporary art. So it was interesting to hear you speak about it, and I always kind of wondered whether you're doing art yourself and whether you have aspirations to actually do it yourself.
I actually, I'm really interested. Part of this whole new retirement thing, whatever that really is exploring and really and having the time and dedicating the time to working like on my future. And I think one of the things that I've learned and I've taken away from like my chapter 1.0 was that it took so many years to like to build the foundation and the ground and the fundamentals, and that took, you know, years, like from when we were both very young and like day in day out, and it was
Mm.
done like without anyone, without crowds, without people, without recognition. And so, you know, although like a large part of me is ready to go and is ready to work and is ready to achieve new things, I also know that I'm kind of new, and no matter what I've set up so far while I was playing, a lot of that will take time to develop, and that's, you know, within my own space and, you know, within like great guidance and great people, and, you know, hopefully in some years it will evolve into something stronger. But like architecture, for example, is a form of art that I've always been interested in. I built my home a few years, and I'm
Wonderful.
currently working on a few like health and wellness sporting facilities. First one we started working in is actually in Los Angeles. So yeah, so that's a little bit part
Great.
of the art world.
We spoke about this yesterday on the phone when we were talking about like things that we're going to talk about on this live, and you
I know,
and
but I wanted to make sure there's like no questions that I ask you that you're like, what? I'm not prepared for this. But you said anything goes, so beware.
Exactly, same here. I wanted to actually know more about your transition, because you talk about the retirement that was obviously not a while ago, and
Yeah.
and we didn't really speak since you retired from professional tennis, but it did strike me, and I have an impression that you have probably one of the smoothest transitions out there from all the tennis players, both men and women, that I've followed over the years. And because I've, obviously observing your life and development and building of your brand, and everything that you've accomplished, not just on the tennis court, but also off the tennis court throughout your career, it kind of prepared you for your post-tennis life. I mean, that's at least how it appears to be. So how's that transition going for you right now?
Well, I'd say the transition has been different than what I thought it would be because of what we're all facing, like the challenges, like mentally that we're all facing in today's environment. Like one thing I previously just mentioned was how I was really, like, despite, finishing something that was a huge part of my career, I was like really motivated for what's to come and ready to go. And, I certainly had some ideas, but I don't know, transition. Yes, I've built an amazing base. I had many interests from the court. Like in my spare time, I utilized that time really well. I built really good networks and relationships with people and companies, and my interest in business and in technology and investments, and architecture and art, and I've tried to learn a little bit as much as I could while I was on the road, which was really difficult. And I was ready to, I think, because to be honest, I was very stubborn in the last couple of years with my body. Like, I really thought that, as when we face a challenge, like, our persistence has like been one of our greatest strengths. And I believe in both of our careers, like, no matter what is in front of us, we know that this is just a hurdle and we get through it. And I think I struggled a lot with it because I just kept thinking that it was a hurdle that I could pass and I could get better. And, and I was seeking everything I could. Arriving on the match court, and it was no longer like winning the match and the feeling of like that victory that that I had an opponent across the net and I was able to like win the match point. So for me, it was it's been somewhat of like a transitional relief that I'm not putting my body through that anymore, and like, it's funny, I've spent the last 6-7 weeks with my, being in a home with my family. So my parents are here, and boy, it's, it's entertaining because so much of your past and your history, I mean, entertaining is a nice word. But like, my dad sometimes asks me, we're having dinner, he's like,
you're being very politically correct here.
I am. They're great. But they're, my dad said to me, he's like, do you like not want to go out like to the private court and like hit a few balls? And I was like, no. Well, what? No, I feel great. Every morning I wake up and I do like a form of exercise and a workout where I push myself. Like last night at the end, I had, a lot of calls, and I don't know, it was just before dinner, but I was like, I haven't done something for myself and my body. So I went in the basement, and we have this indoor stationary bike. And I was on there for like an hour at like 172 heart rate. And I'm like, what? Why am I doing this? But it's like, there's some things that are still like part of me, and that I really want that I carry like through in like this transition, and some of it I'm ready to let go. But yeah, I was ready for the transition, and I think I've set up a really good a really good base for myself. So I can look back at that and feel like I'm proud of, you know, although as you know, my focus so much of my life was to tennis. It was also nice to work on other projects and, you know, be part of other things like our hood commercials and like creative things. So yeah, definitely.
No,
How have you been at home? How is family time and
good.
how's that going? Are you cooking? Or is Yelena just cooking all day long?
So we are very fortunate. We have some days we have chef, and some days we're cooking ourselves as a family. I must admit that my wife does more cooking than me. I'm more of a brekkie kind of, as they like to say in Australia,
Right,
kind of person. Um, I like to make like juices, smoothies, like breakfast bowls, those types of
right.
things, avocado on toast and stuff like this with tomato. Um, but we have been spending a lot of quality time with each other, and I think you know you mentioned a little bit the kind of a mental challenges that we all face, not just athletes but everyone on this planet that is affected by the virus. And this quarantine at the beginning was, I think, creating a quite a anxiety in me because not because of the fact that I did not have access to the tennis court, but just because of the uncertainty of, you know, when does the season
Yeah,
continue and what
yeah,
is going to happen. So that's I think you would agree that as an athlete, particularly I think in all areas of life, but particularly in tennis, you just feel like you need to know what your calendar looks like. You need to know, to have some clarity, because then you set your days up in a certain
yeah,
way
of
that
course.
will allow you to distribute the energy in a specific way. Especially being a father and having a family, you know, obviously you have to I have to be quite precise, I think, with my routines and what I do,
Mm.
because I you know, I know that sometimes I have to go out from the comfort zone of not doing specifically things that I'm doing when I'm without my family on the tour, for example, that I have more
Wait,
time.
what is define out of your comfort zone? I want to know
Now,
what out of your comfort zone
well,
means.
yeah, that's a good question, because what is the comfort zone in the end of the day? You know, I think it's maybe a philosophical question or answer, but
Uh-oh.
I
We're
think
not
I
we're
think
not gonna start we're not gonna
no,
start
we're not
hugging.
gonna
We're
go
not
back
gonna
into
start
that.
hugging trees, right? Because
No,
I'm
no,
not I'm
we
not
want
ready for that. I know I
no,
live in
no.
California and everything, but we're not hugging trees on this one.
By the way, have you been to Joshua Park, Joshua Tree Park
I haven't, but
in
it's on my
California?
list and I've wanted to go now, but it's closed. So, have you?
You should. You should. It's an amazing place. Yes, I have. A few years ago, it's
Good
like one of the
good
nicest
trees?
places that I've seen. Oh, amazing trees, amazing nature, landscapes, everything. But let's go back to the other
Okay,
part of
back.
the comfort zone that I wanted to respond to you.
Okay.
Um,
Back to cooking at home.
um,
No,
basically, what I was,
the reason
yeah,
I asked you about cooking is because I
yeah.
remember growing up and I was in my already when I had started playing a little bit of tennis, I was, you know, my grandmother was very much part of our family and she would cook all the meals for us and I would go in the kitchen and I would ask her like, "Oh, this was so good. Like, can you give me the recipe so when I'm older I can cook this?" And she said she would never give me the recipes because she told me, she's like, "I do not want you in the kitchen when you're older." And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. But now I'm every day I tell you when I'm emptying and putting in the dishes in the dishwasher, I'm thinking of her because I'm like,
Smart
God,
woman.
these men, they eat so much food. It's a lot. Every
Yeah, I
day.
know.
No
Well,
breakfast, lunch, dinner, you know, snacks, tea time.
hey, we need strength, you know.
You do
We
need
need
strength.
we need muscles to move stuff around the house, right? Move tables, chairs, beds, and stuff. That's where we are, I
Oh,
think,
okay.
most
What beds are you
helpful with.
moving?
But
How are you? Are you maintaining a good diet like throughout this time?
I, I, yes, well, I am. You know, I don't. I'm one of these people that really doesn't have problem with gaining weight. In contrary, I have a other problem. I have problem
Shit.
with losing weight, so I have to, you know, stay so to say up to speed with my nutrition, but at the same time with exercise and everything. And look, you know, what I was referring to, you know, it's been now more than 2 months, and we're in a country that right now we're in Spain, which is has one of the worst circumstances, like corona numbers and everything,
Right.
from all the countries in Europe and in the world actually. And so we've been locked down for 24/7 for 2 months. So we've been fortunate to have in the house where we're staying at the moment, to have a swimming pool, to have a garden, have a little gym so we could work out and
Right.
kind of stay fit. And it's interesting that you were saying, because I was looking at some of your videos on Instagram of you doing your home gym training, and it's really like when you're an athlete and when you're used to these things, it's such an integral part of your day that it's
Yeah.
almost impossible to not to think about days that where you're not doing something, even if it's like a stretching, yoga, whatever it is. And so I've been trying to do that, and but there's been some days where you just I haven't done much of activity, physical activity at all, and that's
Right.
fine. You know, I mean, because in the end of the day, we have to slow down, and I think this whole thing that is happening on a brighter side allowed us to have time to reflect on ourselves and our lives, really
Mm.
understand, you know, how we want to move forward, because we don't know what's going to happen, what are the ramifications of coronavirus on the tennis world. But what we can do is we can encourage ourselves to kind of take matters in our own hands and really try to, I don't know, learn new skills, and work on ourselves on every aspect of our being, and do some things that attract us, that are kind of our hobbies and our desires,
Hmm.
but we really never had time to do it. So, you
What are
know,
those for you currently? What are the hobbies that you're like? What are your interests? What are you trying to like improve, or you know, what are you
yeah.
learning about?
Well, I like yourself, if I'm not mistaken, I have a very large interest in the world of health, wellness, and well-being. So I've been reading, watching, learning a lot from some of the people in the industry that I consider as kind of my mentors, and because it's so closely related to the tennis and the professional
Of
sport
course.
that I'm part of. So it's much easier for me to be in tune with my body and to understand, you know, when I read something, to actually apply it in my life and to
Right.
try it on my own body. And so I've been spending a lot of time in you know, reading and learning about new things in relation to health, to metabolic functions, to mental health, spiritual health, and all these
That's
different things.
it's kind of it's really, I mean, I it's really admirable to watch you like gain this interest throughout the years, because I will say it, and you probably admit to it, but in the beginning of your career, like you struggled so much with your body and
Yes.
the length of matches. I remember, you know, watching you on the clay and all the cramping and being like, are you ever going to get your shit together? Um, and like to see you like make a transformation, you know, like what I loved about the sport is we really didn't have to, like, although we had to talk before every tournament and after every single match, like our game and our results always did the talking for us.
Yes.
And I don't know about you, but like that's what I, as I look like to the future and as I think of my hobbies and I think of my interests, I always think of not necessarily like result oriented situations, but I want to work on things in which I don't have to really explain myself, but in which that I really like apply myself, and that I show my skill
Yeah.
and my knowledge and ability, and that I do it like I guess in a humble manner because what the sport teaches you is like to be humble. You know, you go out on the court and you go through these like waves of emotions, these ups and downs, and you lose, you know, 8 points in a row. And so how do you get yourself together in front of thousands of people? And you have to do it without speaking. You have to showcase it. So, you know, it's interesting that I've really like admired that you've taken like all the weaknesses in the beginning of your career, and you applied facts and you applied knowledge, and I consider like a transformation, you know, and you're still like looking for more.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your kind words. Of course, I do feel like it goes both ways. I mean, I've been, seeing and also empathizing with what you've been going through, especially in the last couple of years of your career with the shoulder surgeries, struggles, and everything that you had to overcome and that you had to face in order to actually give yourself a chance to be back and play on a big stage. So I can only imagine the difficulty of really and uncertain in a way. Like, you want to compete, you want to be out there, but at the same time, your body doesn't allow you to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in my case, I've been always trying to really be conscious of this holistic approach to life and to my own body, because of course we all want to win a tennis match when we go out there, but what we do before we walk out on that court determines in a very high percentage the outcome of the match. So right. I try to upgrade the, I guess, knowledge of self and the things that I can conduct myself with that can maybe improve my health, my recovery, right. my ability to think clearer, to be more concentrated, to slide better in those things, and to endure. Because we have longest season of all sports is in tennis. We have 10-11 months a year nonstop, and it's a lot of wear and tear on the body. So how is it
one of the few...
for you when it comes to the wear?
Sorry, it broke up a little bit. I would say, like,
yeah,
you've definitely chosen the route that is somewhat of a, not the one that everyone would take. Like, you've taken, and I think that's a big risk. Like, you've taken the route that you felt was personal to you, that catered to you and your needs and the way that you felt. And you went against kind of, and you continue to do so, to push like against the norm of what is normal, like through your diet. I mean, you were kind of one of the first few that, spoke about how this transition in your diet, really helped like your body, like maintain, its ability to withstand these long matches, and then the physicality of 7 matches in a 2-week time period at a Grand Slam. And, you were very vocal about it. And I think it definitely, not like that I'm at a level that you are, but I think it's made us realize as athletes on all across the spectrum how important that really is. And not all of us can be that disciplined. I mean, look, I come home and I'm like, I want a chocolate bar, and I have this chocolate bar, or I want like this big size ice cream in the off season, like I will have it. Which leads me to say, like,
yeah,
when you
I do have my guilt pleasures as well,
Like what?
And I some dandelion root with a sprinkle of peach compote.
Oh God.
That's
not gonna do it.
I love ice cream. I'm kind of weak on ice cream.
Okay, so you have some dairy. Like, what was when you last had like a big victory, which was like very recent, but what did you indulge in, or what was your biggest celebration? I'd say.
In terms of food?
Yeah. Food and everything. Alcohol, I don't know.
No, I'm not big on alcohol at all. I don't drink for many years. Although I saw that one of the messages that the questions that you got from one of the people, and you actually posted on your Instagram stories, was whether were you ever playing hangover a tennis match? Was that a question?
Yes, that was a question. We can both answer it if you want.
Yeah, you go ahead first.
Okay.
Ladies first.
No, I will say I've never been drunk going into a match, or like hungover. Well, definitely not drunk. Wait, let me back up for a second. No, I've definitely never been hungover. I'd say the one match where I only slept like 3 hours was not because of alcohol, but I don't know what, something was like happening off the court, and I barely got any sleep. It was the final before the Rome tournament, and I was playing Carlos Suarez Navarro.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how I managed to win that match in 3 sets, but I remember, like, if this is what it feels to be hungover playing a match, like, I never want to be in this position. And you can see, like, when I win the match, I'm just so relieved that it's over, win or lose, because I'm completely deflated.
Yeah. Well, I am also going to say that I've never experienced that on the court myself. I've never been, I think, that
that's so
irresponsible.
boring.
But
They wanted, like, a juicy answer.
but wait a second. I'm coming there to the point. But I've had crazy nights during the Davis Cup weekends,
Yeah.
and I have been hungover watching other guys play, and then talking trash.
Knowing that you were not going to play during that weekend, or knowing there was a chance you could potentially play, but you still took the risk of being hungover?
And knowing that there is no chance for me to play.
Okay.
I
don't know. You hesitated on that one.
No. I just remembered. I did play one doubles match, the doubles match, Davis Cup, Sweden. Yes, we were
Okay.
two love up. Soderling and top guys didn't play for Sweden. And I came back off the Wimbledon victory. It was the first Wimbledon win. I became #1. It was 2011. It was like all my dreams came true. And I traveled like literally the next day from London to Sweden to take part in quarterfinals of Davis Cup. And I was in the team. I was saying that I don't want to be part of any official matches. But I don't know how I ended up playing the doubles match, and I wasn't seeing the ball very clearly. Let's keep it to that.
Boy.
I guess it happens. At least it's doubles, so I have a justification for for doing it in doubles, even though it's not fair towards doubles guys, but still was in doubles.
Oh, that's great. Oh, memories, but not anymore, huh?
No. I'm not good with alcohol at all. Glass of wine occasionally, yes. Red wine, no white wine. I would not have. I don't know. You asked me what was the biggest celebration in terms of food.
Yeah, what was the biggest celebration you've ever had?
There was some cakes, some cakes around there, like dairy and stuff that I usually don't eat and don't consume. And
that's really risky for the viewership. They're like, oh.
You're putting me on the spot here, but I'm weak on my mom's cuisine, my mom's desserts. So when my mom prepares a cake that is made with the original ingredients and original recipe that includes dairy and regular sugar and all these things, I'm not asking questions. I'm just like
you go for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Why don't we pivot to mindset?
Yes. I would before the
It's a very
mindset,
easy transition from
yeah,
alcohol and dairy
very
and
hard to
sugar
transition from one thing to another.
to
But
mindset.
okay, let's go to a mindset and mental strength. Like, so I was always amazed with the level of intensity that you bring out on the court, not just on the court, but also off the court. Like we've known each other now for a while. I mean, over 15 years, um, and I know, I know, I don't want to say the real Maria, but I know the other Maria that most of the people don't see on the court or off the court within the premises of tennis facilities. Um, so how did you manage to keep that level of intensity consistently throughout your career? Like once you step onto the tennis club, it's game face on, that's it, and I'm just sticking to it.
Yeah. I think a few things. I think when I was, a lot of it comes from your beginnings, and you know, during the time when I like came to and moved to the United States, I was always like the odd one out. I was, when it was a group, when it was, you know, the tennis classes, I was always like this kind of like the duckling that would be, you know, in her own little world. You know, I was very skinny and frail, and I didn't have the best English at the time. So, but I was good, and I had this, like, I had this potential, and I think I realized that this was like not, when I would go onto the court, it wasn't necessarily a territory for friendship. It was like what I was meant to be doing, and I got this opportunity to get there, and I wanted to really like focus. And I think the focus and the concentration, especially when I was young, like that was something that it was an asset that I think came to me like more naturally than other kids. And I realized that through this focus and through this concentration day in, day out, that I utilize it so much better to my advantage than other people.
Mm.
And I compensated for like the lack of maybe my physicality, or, you know, the lack of like supernatural talent. You know, I had great strokes, and I had a big serve when I was younger, and I used my weapons really well. But I had to work, like it didn't come naturally to me. Like it came with a lot of work. So I think I carried that feeling that it wasn't coming easy to me, and that I constantly had to be like on this edge and wearing like horse blinders on from a very young age. And I took it with me to when I turned professional. And, you know, after winning a first Grand Slam, when you're torn into like scenarios that are so out of your control, it was really like to be in this single linear path was really I felt like it was my only chance to continue being great at what I was great at. And so like I would, you know, every coach that I've had, like they would know when it's match day and we get in the car from the hotel, like the Maria that closes the door in the car is very different to Maria that, you know, they see when we're doing a practice week.
Yeah.
You know, or the week before when we're practicing. Like I get in a car before the match, I'm like, I've got my headphones on, you know, no one talks. I'm thinking, I'm visualizing how I see things, game plan, how I'm feeling, you know, the nerves and the pressures, how I'm handling them. And also it's like you, and it's your personality. It's who you know, we're entertainers, right? So part of that was also like this shield and this character of mine that I carried on the court. And yeah, and I just kind of kept going with it, and that's who you got. And I never, you know, as I look back, I never pretended to be someone who I wasn't, right? Those were all like qualities that made up Maria. They weren't like qualities that I saw along the way and that I picked up and that I was like, okay, now I'm going to try this. Like it was like that from day one. And so at least I was consistent with it.
You certainly was.
Yeah,
But it was,
it was very consistent. But yeah, I think what's also interesting for for everyone that's on and listening to this is to understand, because even though like mindset was and is like our greatest strength, I think what's interesting is learning how sometimes like we were able to get it back when it wasn't in our favor, or when we felt like it was lagging. And I'd love to like hear your perspective on what you would do to help bring it back, you know, when you needed it, when it wasn't natural.
yeah, that's a great question. I think that recovery, basically in mental, emotional sense, is something that I feel I have personally worked on a lot. I've dedicated a lot of attention in my mental training to, you know, to be able to recover quickly from being down on myself, being down on life in general, whatever it is, being in a negative state of mind and experiencing emotions like, you know, disappointment, anger, fear, whatever
Yeah.
it is, and being able to transform that very quickly back to the homeostasis, you know, back to the balance on
Mm.
being confident in myself on the court, and bringing that self-belief that actually is necessary, as you know, to manage to be successful in what you do, not just on the court but off the court as well. And obviously when you are on the court, like for example for me, right now tennis, you know, it was different in the first part of my career. Obviously it was mostly about winning, about achieving goals, also very, very dedicated to that purpose, hard training, hard work, just raw strength and power towards the achievements. But now, like in the last probably 4 or 5 years, you know, I've realized, also becoming a father, that has, you know,
Yeah.
awakened some dimensions of myself that I've never really knew that they're there. And I think the tennis right now represents a battlefield, and also a school of life for me, because
Yeah.
on the tennis court I get triggered like nowhere else in my life. And I'm sure you can identify, you can like
Yes.
correlate to that, right? um,
Yes,
and
except I think I did a better job of hiding it than you.
exactly, yeah. So for all the young tennis players and athletes out there listening, do not watch my videos when I'm breaking rackets. uh, but
But you know how
you know, I
sometimes,
did, you know, I did have a lot of these outbursts, and emotional kind of breakdowns, and I still have them, you know, on the court. I think I have them less, but I still, you know, throw a racket, I still scream, I still, you know. And then I understand that, you know, I think once I made the distinction between and difference between like my behavior and myself, who I truly am, that's when I felt like it's easier for me to accept that I'm going through these stages, that I have flaws, that I make
right,
mistakes, and that I'm going to feel this way because it's a super high intensity. You know, there's a lot of pressure. You're by yourself, nowhere to hide. So, you know, you either win or you lose. It's all up to you, right?
right,
So experiencing all these emotions sometimes gets the worst out of me. But then at the same time, I think what the mental training of focusing on the recovery of, first I think accepting, okay,
hmm,
this is it, I can't turn back the time and change what I've done, and I'm not proud of it, but at the same time I accept it, and I try to just channel whatever energy that I have into the positive and constructive things for me to be able to win a tennis match, for example, or just to be a better human being in general.
I have to say that all sounds really great. Like I'm speaking to a guru.
So what is your process? What is your process?
um, oh, I'd say I think I rely like I never like mind showing my like my weaknesses in front of. I was very comfortable. It's so funny because I was so we're all so exposed, but yet in like a world where you're so exposed, I always felt like really comfortable showing like the truth and weakness and the things that are like just that I don't know, that are part of our characteristics and flaws that are maybe, you know, okay, they're not perfect, but they're who we are. And I will say that because, you know, and especially in women's tennis and the ups and downs that the momentum switches that like I felt would go during a match, I knew that like anything could happen at any time. And I really like believed that I was mentally tougher than my opponent. It wasn't like I was telling myself that and I was talking myself into it. I really like I grew up with that belief because it felt like my weapon. And so I think there are definitely moments where, you know, I would give my coach's looks. You know, there'd be like the Maria look.
Mm.
You know, and I would there were definitely moments and months at a time where things weren't working during a match, and it was like, you know, you put your attention to your team and your
Yeah.
people, and you try to find answers from them, and it was like this I don't know what you would call it, but for me it's kind of like this act, you know, of it's not me, it's you know, in this relationship.
Yeah. Of course. Of course.
But I feel like I kept it together all right, but because of like the momentum changes in the game, I knew that if I was just a little bit more patient and like I could persevere, not playing my best tennis. And it felt like a game to me, and I liked that game because I felt like I was better at that game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's interesting because I mean your also your journey of, you know, going to United States when you were very young and you know, going to a complete unknown territory and really being forced in a way by life to dig deep. I think I can relate to that because I did also come from, you know, a country that did go through a lot of difficult circumstances
yeah,
and hard times during 90s. So I understand that maybe coming from literally nothing in a way and trying to create something really gives you this humility, and it gives you also humbleness, and really it also brings you to the center really quickly, as you said when you talked about yourself in your game phase when you arrived to the tennis, and you were saying, like, you know, you get a chance, you want to put all your focus onto that and not really be ungrateful for that opportunity to compete. So I think that's a very powerful message because, you know, many times we take things for granted. And I mean, it happens to me. You know, I try to be conscious of every moment, but, you know, a lot of times I catch myself like, hey, you know, like,
yeah,
you
wake
know,
up.
remember where you're coming from, remember who you
Yeah.
are, remember what's going on, and be
Do
grateful.
you
There's so many
sometimes,
beautiful things.
I notice when you're sometimes, well, actually, I do this sometimes too when I was playing, but there are matches when you win that are actually like meaningful, but our reaction is kind of like subdued,
Yeah.
right? And then there are other, you know, situations in matches where we're so excited and we're in full
Yeah.
celebration. What do you think? What do you attribute that to?
Well, I think it's individual cases. To be honest, I think sometimes there's just an element of you not feeling your best, maybe on the court that day. Maybe you're not feeling the ball well. Maybe you're feeling like the opponent is outplaying you, and then you know, all that intensity, all that feeling of being uncomfortable in your skin on that day. you know, just raises the intensity and the level of stress in a way. And you kind of feel like you want to channel it out. You feel like you want to scream it out. You feel like, you know, you feel like in a way, you just want to get that over with, and you feel
Right.
like you're fighting your heart out in a match that maybe you should routinely win in straight sets, right?
Right.
So I think there's an element to that. Then maybe it's conditions as well. You know, sometimes who likes to play on a windy day? You know, or is extremely hot or whatever it is. Sometimes maybe it's the crowd, or it's that you're allowing some other factors from outside, the distractions, to get you to, you know, to put you out of the focus and out of that comfort zone, so to say, if something like that exists. But I also feel like sometimes is also opponent across the net, whether he or she is playing really well, whether, you know, you don't like each other so much. I don't know.
Right.
There are various things that I think affect that.
We
What do
could
you
talk
think?
about that if you want to. It would make for really juicy highlights.
I see what your intention is here. You're looking for some juicy topics and some what can I say?
Yeah, you know me. I'm all about the juicy topics. But I want to make sure that we get some of these. I wrote down a
Yes.
few fan questions because I want to
Yes,
make sure that
let's do that, and I have a question for you later on after, and then we can move
Okay.
into the fans' questions. Yeah.
Okay. So someone asked, what superpower would you have and why?
I think teleportation, because I'm really tired of traveling, so I just want to teleport myself somewhere.
Okay, that makes sense.
And flying, just flying, seeing the world from a bird's eye perspective.
Okay.
What about you?
I'd say invisibility. I have a little Sherlock Holmes in me. It's like somewhere deep. So I think invisibility would be a good one.
So who would you spy on, and why?
Oh, I actually don't think it's to spy on. I think it's like for others to like not see my presence.
Okay.
I always no, you know, I think it's partially because we spent so many years. Okay, maybe now you're a little different. Like we see you driving in like Teslas all over like the countries when you're at a tournament. But when you're like somewhat normal and you drive an official transportation, and everyone from other cars sees that you're playing the US Open or you're playing Wimbledon or
Yeah.
so and so, you're like in the back seat like, oh.
Yeah.
So that's why I love New York City. I love like being in a taxi, and I look outside and I'm like, oh, like there's thousands of taxis.
So if you had a possibility to like just eliminate the successful athlete and brand that Maria Sharapova is, recognized around the world, if you could pick a place where you want to just stroll on the streets and just walk around being free and not recognized, where would that be?
I don't know. I don't mind. I don't feel. I feel comfortable where I live. Like I've had a home in California for many years, and I feel really comfortable and free. Even though the other day was like really random, but a paparazzi followed us, which was like, I don't know, it completely came out of surprise. But usually it happens when there's like news or something, or like when I retired. They try to like see what I would be up to in the next week. But yeah, I've been able to like, even if there are moments that are great moments or tough moments that people, they recognize you a little bit more, or they look out for you a little bit more, or they identify with you more. I've never really shied like away from that. I think it's, in the last like 5 to 10 years, I've really I've embraced it. I've embraced the people that come up to you and acknowledge and say, that, wow, like we get to meet you. We've seen you on the TV and we see what you've done for years of your life. And, now we can come up to you and say hello and, wish you luck. And you know, that I don't mind that. So I wouldn't say there's anywhere like I feel comfortable when I'm in the United States. You know, Russia's a little bit tougher. You know, New York City is all right. So I don't shy away from that because I think
Okay.
I've realized how this what you do impacts and inspires so many people, and it's a huge part of what we done. And honestly, I never like I'm growing up, I never thought that way. You know, no one taught me to think that way.
Hmm.
So I appreciate, and I don't hide from it now.
That's really nice. I mean, for sure, it just gives you, like, for me personally, I there are times when it just goes over the limit, so to say, when
Yeah.
you just feel like you had enough
Yeah.
and you want to
Yeah,
just
and sometimes it's just
disappear.
inappropriate.
Yeah,
Or
but a
you're
lot of
eating
times
or
when it's yeah, but a lot of times when it's nice is actually you're enjoying the interaction, you're enjoying the fact that you know might have inspired someone, and especially if the kids come up to you. That's my favorite part when they say, you know, I'm looking up to you. You know, I love to watch your matches and I like to watch your impersonations of Maria Sharapova or something like that. You know, it really fills my heart.
we gotta talk. I think you need an update on those because since you did those, my technique has changed. So
Yes,
I think
I
the fans
understand.
would really appreciate an update when you have time. No big
I
deal.
agree. I agree. That's my next project. But
Okay.
speaking about projects, I wanted to ask you this question because I get this question a lot for also from like athletes in general, tennis players mostly, obviously, but just athletes on. Um, you know, we talked about it a little bit, reflected on it last night when we talked on the phone. A lot of athletes have difficulty to understand what is going on in their lives. I mean, especially if you're successful and you're, you know, you're building an empire in a way, you're building your brand, you're building awareness about around your story of life, of who you are, what you
Mm-hmm.
represent, what you care for. And I'm not just talking about the financial aspects. There's a lot of different things that are involved, obviously, in the brand. But
Yeah.
what would you say are, let's say, because you've done that so really beautifully, and you're like one of the best examples in sport. What would you think are the building blocks of a successful brand? And also, do you think that for a tennis player or an athlete, doesn't matter, uh, is it relevant to start really? How far ahead should you start thinking about things that you should do post tennis? What are
Right.
the things that you would advise these athletes that would make them a successful brands and not just observed as whatever, just a tennis player, something that would allow them to go out from the field
Right.
of sports?
Right. I think there's a few parts to that. I think first, you, or I guess from like my own personal journey, it was I wanted to establish this feeling of being financially secure, like for myself and for my family, because you know one of the things that we lacked when, especially when we moved to the United States, was like finances and the insecurity of not knowing like. You know, I had a coach in California, but I could only like visit him, you know, from Florida to California once in like 4 months because we just couldn't afford it. So for any athlete, and I know every sport is expensive. You know, the investment that you have to put in a sport it will take many years like to develop without any return. So I think
Mm.
the first part of the journey is establishing this sense of like security financially for yourself and for you know the close ones around you so that you have a good base to build on. And for different people that's a different you know that's a different amount, you know, and it comes from different avenues. What we were, you know, I guess smart in, and I don't really love the word brand because it sounds like very official. And one of the things that we did really
Mm.
well within my team was that the things that I was involved in, like I was all in. Like my interests, my passion, my involvement, my relationship. I mean, I think of like all the sponsors that I've had, like long lasting sponsors. You know, I've been with Evian for 10 years. I've been with Nike since I was 12 years old. And I think of like the building stones of that. And it didn't start with them, you know, putting millions of dollars in my bank. That's not how things happen in life. It's not realistic. You know, it starts with understanding what do you both need? How do you work? How much time of mine? Do you understand my priority? Do you understand how I work? And with that, you build like these strong, you know, within a company like Nike, you have hundreds of executives, right? So you get to know one and leads to another. Yeah, you do one project within like a sportswear team, you know, that could maybe potentially help you with something else. So after learning those goals, you establish relationships, and relationships are very authentic because you learn so much about each other and you understand what that really means. And maybe, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but based on your experience, but relationships have helped me tremendously. And then I think of, you know, like the deal making has really transitioned in the last few years for me because I'm actually more excited about investing in like young and up and coming brands, which, you know, whether it's technology, whether it's like the health and wellness space, you know, people that have brilliant ideas, you know, have great skills, maybe don't have the finances yet, don't have the connections or the networking. Like I'm really passionate about helping them grow. Yeah. And I'm still, you know, I've had Sugarpova for the last 8 years, and I'm learning so much about like business through that. And, you know, in the beginning it was a very expensive hobby. You know, I didn't have any like particular goals with it. You know, now I consider myself like savvy in this area because I understand what deal making is. I make deals myself. You know, I don't rely on agents anymore, maybe to do things for me. So and all that is about growth. You know, when you're young, you can't make those decisions for yourself. You have to have the right people. You know, my parents were like incredible and witty and smart and made right decisions for me, which I recognize is very fortunate.
That's beautifully said. Thanks for explaining that. I mean, I was watching your documentary a few years ago. Was it 2017? And also your book Unstoppable. I think that's where like you've allowed people to come closer to you even more. I think that's the power of documentaries and power of the book, is that you really go deep and you reveal certain things that haven't been really revealed for many years throughout your career. I think that was really nice because that allowed you to express yourself even, you know, I think even more, and allowed also people from, let's say, brands from or companies or, you know, individuals that come up with some ideas that really never understood you in that way. Right. They felt like they know you better, so they feel like they can approach you more for a specific thing that is not related to tennis. So that's why I always, when I talk with athletes and we talk about the brand, and I agree with you that the word sounds a little bit formal, but I feel like brand is it's like translated into a story, into a journey, right? Everyone has their original authentic story. So I just feel like, regardless of the fact that you are, you know, coming from maybe not a developed Western country, whatever it is, everyone has the story, regardless of the ranking, regardless of where they're coming from. And I feel like there's just maybe not enough maybe decisiveness or courage to take the step into unknown and really tell that story and be bold about it. Why not? Yeah. You know, and
well,
maybe present yourself in a way that...
I think when it comes to athletes and like the financial and the business side of things, I think it's a side that, like, from an athlete's perspective, we like to be part of what we know of. Like we know sport and we know that craft and we want to grow it. But I feel like when there are things that we're not quite familiar with or we're not as good as, we put it like on the back burner. And for many athletes, you know, that means putting people in place that don't have your best interest and that end up utilizing your, you know, your wealth and your fame to their advantage. And I think that's, I mean, it's incredibly sad, but I'd say if anything, like there's, you know, make sure you know, like, make sure you know what your bank account looks like. You know where your investments are going. Make sure you know how your portfolio is performing. All those things that we might seem, okay, we don't know, like, what does this mean? We have other people. No, like, take it into your hands. You know, don't be afraid to make the mistake, but at least you make it. You know, don't let other people make it for you.
Absolutely, I agree with that 100%. I think everyone should have essential knowledge of understanding the financial, because we live in in this financial world, and of course, once you're a successful athlete and you're competing on a certain stage, once the numbers start growing on your bank account, of course, you feel great, you feel more liberated, but then
Right.
many, unfortunately, in my experience, majority of athletes really don't have any idea of what is going on with their portfolio, with their investments, with their P&Ls. And so, I think that's a really good message. Take the matter in your own hands. And really,
Yep.
if you don't want to blame someone else, or if you don't want someone else controlling your life, just do it today. You know, go online, take books, take a mentorship program, whatever it is. You can always find ways these days to learn. There's so many different channels. So, so do you want, maybe I'll switch on the comments right now, and I'm going to ask everyone watching.
Let everyone back in. There we go.
We'll go. Yeah, we'll wrap this up.
This is by far the longest Instagram live I've ever done. Not that I've done so many, but
I feel privileged. I do feel privileged.
Okay, so
this is a very good question, coming from a profile called Alvern14. Maria, if Novak would do an autobiography, what should be the title?
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I have a few, but I have to run them by you first.
Okay.
I don't think.
Let's delay this.
Okay, well, I think much of it will, I mean, you have to play up to all your strengths, and there are many, but like that have to do with grit and perseverance. And I think there's a nice, I actually, when I was writing a book, and I don't know how this applies to you, but I felt like so young to be writing one, and I wanted it to be called To Be Continued, because it's like, you know, you're writing an autobiography, you're in your 30s, and you want your life to continue. And they're like, no, you're already talking about the future. You got to talk about like now, like what you are, the years behind you, not the years in front of you. So.
Of course.
That was a tricky one. That caught me off guard. We'll have to report back.
So I have another one from Sophie. Question, Maria, and I mean for both of us, what is the most inspiring documentary or movie that you have seen in your life?
Wow. I thought, I mean, I think I've seen it since he's passed away.
Yes.
I love the way it was shot, and I actually got to know the producers in the last few months that did it, and they said that was like the third version of the documentary. That he's such a perfectionist that they had two versions, and he was like, I'm not happy with this. I'm going to make this even better. And he was just such an inspiring and special individual. And I thought it did a really good job of just capturing like how competitive he was and how relentless he was. And I want, like, when it ended, I wanted more.
Mm.
How
Yeah,
about you?
Same, absolutely. Muse was I, had that privilege to know Kobe personally, over the years, and have a relationship with him, and he was definitely one of the mentors that I had in my life, and he
Yeah.
was really there for me when I was experiencing an injury and coming back, and I seek for an advice, and just from people that have been there, that understand what you're going through, and he was truly a special person.
Yeah.
So that was very there's very profound documentary, absolutely. The other one that I really liked, I don't think you probably didn't watch it. It was called. It was aired on HBO. It's called Once Brothers, and
Okay.
about two basketball players from our region, Vlade Divac from Serbia and
Oh,
Dražen
okay.
Petrovic from Croatia. And HBO did this series with Vlade, because Dražen Petrovic was arguably the greatest basketball player ever to live in ex-Yugoslavian region, and he died in car crash. Um, I think I can't remember the year exactly, but it was kind of a long time ago, more than 20 years ago.
Right.
And he was playing in the NBA, and he won silver with Croatia on Olympic Games, playing against the Dream Team in '92 with Jordan and everyone. And him and Vlade Divac were very, very close. Vlade was a Serbian basketball player playing in NBA in Lakers. And they were literally inseparable, very, very close. And
I'll have to watch that.
they were roommates, and then unfortunately war happened, and
You're
Yugoslavia.
basically giving the entire documentary away. We can go and watch this, right?
Okay.
I mean,
I'm just like, I was very inspired by that, so I just anyway, everyone should watch Once Brothers for sure.
is this how all your interviews go? You just like keep talking?
Sorry, I did not tell you at the beginning, but my interviews last for 2 hours, so we have another 47 minutes.
Oh my God.
Okay, so we are wrapping this up. We're wrapping this up. Let me go through a last question, and
Okay.
last question, I promise, and then we'll finish. We have some questions in Russian here. Оба говорить на русском. Я по-русски, я понимаю, не говорить.
You probably understand more than I do these days. That's not true, but.
So Maria Ryan is asking questions. Are you as flexible as Novak is?
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. I mean, no. But I did.
Are you working on your
flexibility
these days?
It's okay. I mean, like, you set such a high standard that, and you must be like in your sleep with like your leg up, like
exactly,
like, stretching.
Exactly.
No, I used to, when I was younger, I did gymnastics for a few years, as part of like my training for tennis, and then I wasn't like very tall then, and I stopped. Funny enough, I stopped growing. So my parents were like, get her out of that, because my parents really like, thought that they preferred that I was taller than I was shorter for my sport. So they got me out of gymnastics and took me to boxing, where I don't think that's like the opposite.
What a great switch.
I know, the opposite of flexibility.
Well, I think it gave you a nice balance between the two, right?
Yeah, I had a good, I love boxing. Do you do any boxing?
I do occasionally.
I mean, when do you have time?
With my wife,
you probably don't have any time.
We do a lot of boxing.
I mean, between stretching and the diet and the tree hugging and the meditation.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, how about this? The next time we do a live, we can hug a tree together. And
I would love that.
Talk about
I would. Okay.
We'll stop right there. Thank
Yeah,
you, Maria. Thank you so
it's a
much.
good place to stop. But
Yes.
thank you. This is lots of fun and nice to
Yes.
feel like it felt like I came out of retirement for like an hour.
Okay. Well, at least we can have a nice friendly hit in California next time we're there.
Okay. I would actually really like that. So yes,
Okay. Thank you,
definitely.
Maria. Thank you so much,
Thank you so
everybody,
much. Thanks
for
everyone for joining us.
appreciate it. Ciao,
Have a great
Maria.
week.
Thanks. Say hello to
Bye.
everyone. Bye.